Whakatakata hau ki tūru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. Kia hi aka te ata kura, he tio, he hoka, he hei hu, te hei mauriora. Katua kei te mihi ki te atua i rungarawa. E te atua nau tēnei au i whakaaro mamata te ātangata. Ho mai e rangi a tāua ki tutuki e ngā mahi kei mua mātou, nō re te atua korore ki tu ingoa. Kia mai maharo ki ngā aitu mate o tēnā marae, haere, haere, haere. Haere ki waiki nui, waiki roa, waiki pāmama o te kāinga tuturu o te ātangata katoa. Haere mate, haere mate, haere mate. Nō reira, ti hei mauri mate ki a rātou, ti hei mauri ki a tātou nā waionga. Nō reira, tēnei te mi ki a koe e pā, ko koe te korowai, e korowai ti a mātou. Nō reira, tēnā koe, tēnā koe, tēnā koe. Nau mahara mai te motu o Amerika ki te tonga, Peria. Nō reira, tēnā koe, nau mahara mai ki tēnei. Ka hoki atu a rātou ki ngā tangata katoa. Nau mahara mai e te rangatira ko tautoko a ia. Nō reira, tēnā koe. Nā mihi nui ki a tātou kia tai mana i raro i te tuenui o te whare wānanga o tāko. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Cease the winds from the south, cease the winds from the east, that the coldness upon our skin refreshes us, and so begins a new day. We pay homage to our atua, our Lord, our God, our kaihanga, our maker of heaven and earth. We also pay homage to all our ancestors and all those who have passed before us. Nō reira, tēnā haere, haere, haere. And to our guest here, our important guest here, nau mai hara mai ki tēnei te ahu o tēnei whare, to this wonderful whare, nau mai hara mai. To everybody here, we tautoko the proceedings today. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. To begin the program here, I've been asked to do the blessing. And it's a blessing to start the program for the research and the commissioning of the project. Nō reira, tēnā koutou. So I've got a native tree here. I've blessed it with the blessing of the water. Ka whakawātia tātou ki ngā hara o i ngā hoa, nō reira, tēnā koutou. So I cleanse the spirit upon all of yous. Ki te ngoa te matua me te tamaiti me te wairua tapu. Ki te ngoa te matua me te tamaiti me te wairua tapu. Ki te hao tāpiri mātia, ka whakatapua te rauimi, nō reira, tēnā koutou. So with the breath of tāwhiri mātia, I call upon the spirits to bless, to sanctify, to commission this wonderful project. So as a final gesture, now that we have been, the project has imbued with the sacredness and the knowledge of all these very special people, I call upon Carlos to proceed with the hongi, which is the Maori representation of the acknowledgement. And it's the touching of the noses to acknowledge the person there. And the second touching is to acknowledge the ancestors which support you. Nō reira, tēnā koe. Nō reira, tēnei te mi ki a koutou. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. So hēnā rākau onto the organisers now. But before that, it's traditional that we have to sing a waiata, as you do on the marae, so I'll ask my ope, my rōpū, to come down and support me. Nice strong voices. You know the words? Peto. Pa te hono tāta, hono rāta te hunga mate rātou ki a rātou. Pa te hono tāta, hono te hongo rā tātou ki a tātou. So let us all join together in this mission that we are about to partake in. Reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou.
No, good. And thank you very much, Hanare, for giving us such a wonderful blessing and setting us off on this 4-year trip. Thank you very much. Welcome, Grant Robinson, and he's the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, and he's the spokesperson for the environment. And we share a special bond because Grant and I wrote the original, with help, New Zealand Centre for Sustainable Cities grant, and I think it was Diliaro over quite a long period, and it's taken wings, and of course is the wonderful venture that we're just a new walker that's just about to embark. So I can't think of a better person to introduce Carlos and to speak very briefly. Thank you.
Kia ora, ngā mihi nui ki a koutou katoa, nau mai haere mai ki whanganui a tāra. Tēnā koe, tēnā rei. Kia ora. Thanks very much for the invitation, Philippa. It is a great pleasure to be here. It's certainly a much greater pleasure than being in Parliament arguing about pokies for convention centre deals, which is what I've been doing for the earlier part of the day. So it's fantastic to come to an event like this at the end of the day and remind myself of what it's all about. And as Philippa says, my job immediately before becoming a Member of Parliament was working for the University of Otago, and in particular working with Philippa, and the result of those many, many cups of coffee was the creation of the Centre for Sustainable Cities. And every now and then I just get a little tinge of pride when I see the great work that the Centre's doing. I'll come back to that in a minute. I'm not going to speak for very long today because I am that person who stands between you and someone truly interesting to listen to. And that's Carlos Dora. And Carlos, it is fantastic to see you here today. But I will just say a few things because I think the topic around sustainable urban futures is a topic that all politicians should be interested in. And as the environment spokesperson for the Labour Party, I'm particularly interested in. But I actually think it's something that we need to get out of the environment box. And as a person who's passionate about the environment, I think that when we talk about cities, we need to lift it out of the environment box. And I actually think that's what the Centre for Sustainable Cities has been doing. And it's important that as politicians we pick up that lesson. I think cities are great. I think cities are fantastic. I think they are a huge part of the progress and the sustainable progress of humankind. How often do people stand up and say how great they think cities are? I grew up in Dunedin, and I grew up in Dunedin in the late 1970s and into the early and mid and late 1980s. Anyone think of what might have been happening in Dunedin at that period? It was a revolution in music. And I come from a family, a first generation of my generation is the first generation of my family to go to university, but both of my older brothers are academics. Both have PhDs, so as they constantly remind me, I'm the failure in the family. And one of my brother's thesis was on the Dunedin sound, the music that was made in Dunedin, and essentially why was it able to be made in such intensity and, in my view, with such brilliance in that period. And fundamentally, that's because it was made in a particular kind of city environment. And the strength of cities, I still believe, are the people. The reason why cities are great is that they bring people together. That they bring people together to create, to innovate, to have ideas. And we don't do that as well. Technology can get us a little bit of the way, but in the end it's face-to-face, kanahi to kanahi, that actually makes things happen. And that's what cities do. That's what happened in Dunedin. That and the fact it was really cold. And that everybody stayed inside and decided to try and pick up guitars and make music. So that also helped as well. But I'm not advocating cold cities everywhere. But that is fundamentally what happens in a city. You create the environment. But we all know that the way that cities have developed over the last few decades has not been sustainable. It hasn't actually fulfilled, I think, the dream of what I'm saying about how great a city is. A city is not sprawl. A city is people together. A city is not large high-rises built only for the volume of people and the amount of money that can be saved in building at that volume. Cities are about building sustainable communities and neighbourhoods of people together and giving the people in those neighbourhoods the environment in which they can thrive physically and emotionally, that they can thrive socially. If we're going to do that, we have to rethink the way that we build our cities. We have to make sure that we invest a lot of time in the planning of cities, that we invest time in ensuring we have proper, sustainable public transport. Very interesting exchange in the Select Committee of Parliament today with NZTA about Transmission Gully and some of their other transport projects. We have to have a different way of looking at transport. We have to build affordable housing. We have to make sure that there is green space and that there are social services. And here in New Zealand right now, we have an incredible opportunity with Christchurch. And without getting too political, I don't believe that opportunity is being seized to create that truly sustainable city. I think there is so much more that we can do to bring that city to be that 21st century living environment that people want. There's some great ideas on the ground in Christchurch. I just hope the government can find a way to bring those in rather than some of the corner cutting that I think is going on at the moment. But none of this happens in isolation. And I was just saying to Carlos before when we were coming in that academic departments and government departments have something in common, and that is that they tend to be quite silo-based. One department gets on with what it's doing and another department gets on with doing, as we do in government. The future of cities relies on us breaking down those barriers, the future of sustainable cities. But it also requires a new economic paradigm as well, and one that rejects the race to the bottom of the last 30 years, in New Zealand anyway. One that actually says we will look at different values in our economy. We'll look at the value of sustainable development. We'll look at the value of a healthy home beyond just the economic values that have driven us for so long. I could talk for hours about that, but that is also required to make cities work. But to make all of this happen, we need people generating ideas, and that's what the Centre for Sustainable Cities is doing, and I congratulate Philippa and the team for that. Public policy change driven by evidence is one thing we must strive for, and every party in the New Zealand Parliament is now able to articulate why the insulation of all the homes in New Zealand is a priority. The reason that has occurred is because of the work that's been done by the Healthy Housing Program, by other research groups, and by the Centre for Sustainable Cities. you can make a difference. Everyone in this room can make a difference by providing that advocacy and translating your work and your policy into real action, and I congratulate you for that. That's also the story of Carlos Dora as well. And Carlos comes to us from the WHO. He told me I could read out his correct title, Coordinator Global Health and Environment. But what fundamentally Carlos's work has been about translating the importance of health and environment together in the way that we live, breaking down some of those barriers and those silos, and ensuring that we have the evidence and the information to make the right decisions for developing the future. So Carlos, you are most welcome here. Carlos told me before it's 5 a.m. in his body, so I want you all to be energised, to give him the human equivalent of a caffeine injection that you would need if you were about to stand up and address a room full of people at 5 a.m. in the morning. And so please do give him a welcome. Carlos, welcome.